let's kick it off. So for starters, looking back at this, Sombra should be swapped to a hit scan pretty much immediately. It is possible, and arguably even objectively better to play a Sombra, but I think a hit scan is just so much easier outside of like being the Shanghai Dragons. And just playing a hit scan, the Pharah has to be a lot more afraid. It's a lot easier to take space, and it's a lot easier to coordinate angles as well. For example, we'll see here in a second. I hope you guys can still hear the music. Okay. Ball dies. That's great. And our ball tracer's in, right? This looks great. I wouldn't say we necessarily like absorbed their engage per se, but their ball was hiding over in a stupid location. He got punished for it. Point being, whatever happened, ball is scouted, our ball tracer are in. We coordinate the rotation with DM, we're chilling, we make it through. Okay. At this point, we want to keep pressure on the Pharah, which didn't happen. Our brig dies, which also shouldn't happen. Our brig is too far forward and not rotating top. Regardless of where you want to rotate, top, bottom, the D.Va Zen are going top, the brig isn't, so that needs to be coordinated clear with where the Zen player wants to go, or the brig, whoever is calling. But there's no pressure on the Pharah. But if there was, say, like an Ashe, right, and ball goes in for a slam, which just happened a couple seconds ago, and then the Ashe peeks out from here, or a Cassidy, right, lands a couple shots here, pressure's still there, we're kind of chilling. We're in a good spot, as opposed to what's our Sombra doing, which coordination, right? There is something that can be done. It's just not as easy as shoot them, smile. Trapped in a small room. The flankers are doing a great job at getting on these guys because they have a mercy, not a brig. But our backline will end up dying. Trading kills is better for the defense, and they have a mercy. And hit scan just makes that all a lot easier. Okay, flankers are in. Ball is scouted. So at this point, there's another thing that's worth noting is that because I have a Pharah here, we can't really walk at this ball. Like if we hacked this ball and our backline tried to walk at him, the Pharah is just gonna sit here and shoot at us. Unless the Zen is like Izayaki, the Pharah is just gonna live because we don't have a hit scan. Whereas if our tracer calls out this ball, and we wanted to walk at him, and our ball applies pressure to the backline, also this soldier's wide swinging, and there's nothing the backline can do about it. Yeah, if we can apply pressure to these two right here as they're wide swinging, taking angles, we then could walk on this ball and clear him out if we wanted to. Okay, same general rotation though. We're in. Pharah, once again. Also worth noting, Zen lands a 5 orb here, or almost, more like 4, right? And if there's an Ashe like here or here, meaning the soldier's already not here, right? Obviously you can't peek the Pharah right now because there is the soldier, but if the soldier's not here because we've already shot at him, then this Pharah is dead, right? Which is important because we get, it's just angles, right? It's just FPS fundamentals, right? Where we have this one angle here where Zen peeks out, and at the same time we get this here. Right. Hit scan, very strong once again. It is a solid rotation though that we have pulled off. We're in here, but the Pharah is basically able to just gatekeep our entire backline while they like 3 or 4 man turn for our ball. With a hit scan, we can walk at this with this Pharah, is basically what I'm getting at. And And if I had my phone ready, I could read chat. Which... Hog champion. Okay. Pharah still gatekeeping. Let's head inside. I think that's where we finally cap. Pharah ends up going down. Our brig is already started to make a rotation. Does get back with our Zen. We absorbed the engage, right? They came in, like the Pharah was down in here, which maybe I should have seen it from their Pharah's perspective, but the Pharah got down in here in our face, and the ball was obviously way deep, and they bombed in here as well. But our break had shield and we had transcendence, so we absorbed the engage, and then we punished their Pharah and their Mercy and their ball. Although I think the Pharah is alive. Oh, this is their ball. There's the Pharah. Yeah, Pharah is still alive because of the res, but engagement absorbed. Probably not necessary ultimate and a bit of a long rotation by the Zen, but engagement absorbed, and it would have been absorbed a lot more successfully with like a Cassidy maybe. All right, and you can see where the strength of making this kind of rotation, or like sticking to your rotations, is good, because then you do absorb the engagement with the transcendence, even if they do have a Pharah and you don't have a hit scan. Okay, let's look at setup here from the skybox, or we can't see anything. Okay, so Sombra Tracer in. They found our Tracer though, and our ball is main. Okay. Okay, our Tracer lives but shouldn't. Okay, our Tracer does not live. Okay, so you'll notice our Tracer is dead, right? A very prolonged death. And our ball is only just now going in. That's a mistake. The ball needs to be the one creating space or drawing or starting off initiations, right? Where if our Tracer just goes coast by herself, there is a decent chance that their Tracer or I guess they have a soldier, right? But their soldier or their diva or both are just waiting over here. And once you get like this deep, you can't just like recall and be like, ha, I'm safe now. And so you do end up stuck over here. So that's why we need our ball to sort of to be the initiator with whatever pathing, depending on where they're playing, right? Top, catwalk probably isn't the best. You just get shot a lot. But coast, you can go here and drop down if you prefer. There's also this little pathing to pressure point. But our ball does need to be the one making the initiation. See, imagine if now our Tracer is coming from here. Zen's dead anyway, but it could have happened faster, is all I'm getting at. Okay, space created, right? Pretend our Tracer synced up properly with the ball. Now, here's about when we want our backline to walk, right? Particularly with a hit scan. So once again, we want to apply pressure to this Pharah. That would be best done with perhaps a Discord Orb and then maybe another angle from a hit scan. Right, where the Pharah's here now, and so we have an angle here, and then Pharah goes here, and we have an angle here this whole time, right? But our entire like front line, our dive core dies while our backline doesn't really do anything. Let's go back and take another look at that. Okay, ball initiates. Backline is not doing anything. Right, where this Pharah being here isn't allowed if there's like a Cassidy here. Right. And especially where they have a ball, but no tracer or anything. Where is their ball? Okay, chasing ours. I definitely see like Brig and Cassidy walking here and D.Va Zen being here because there is no tracer, right? Who's going to jump on our Zen? No one. Right, and so just having D.Va to DM and body block these rockets, and then having a Cassidy up here with a Brig, walk here, shots here, right? You can see how this suddenly becomes a lot easier to punish the Pharah. Alternatively, it is worth noting that if maybe our Sombra and Ball get back here, I talked about our Tracer syncing up with our front line. Alternatively, a Tracer here could have had almost the same effect, right? Where this Pharah gets one, blink, blink, recall, Pharah's dead, and then hopefully our Ball Sombra live. That's a different issue, right? But we are trying to look at primarily macro. So I think we see a lot of, if I remember correctly, there's just a lot of what we just saw repeated. Where I kind of want to watch from our Tracer's POV, actually. Once again, Ball's not leading off the initiation. We're now down recall, which is obviously a very important tool. And our Ball hasn't even moved. Our Ball's vibing, and we don't have recall. Or alternatively, like, DM could have been there, or walk and get a Discord off. Right, but now we have no recall. But this is good. This kind of positioning is good, right? I've mentioned hit scan. Instead, it's also possible to beat a Pharah just with execution. This is how, right? If you look at the angles of the Zen versus the Tracer, that denies a lot of space from their Pharah, because anywhere she flies up, it's a crossfire. Almost a decent idea. Bomb, almost decent execution. Good idea, right? Bomb zone's high ground. Transcendence absorbs the engagement. And we're all alive right now. They don't have high ground. We're all alive. Push back on with EMP, right? Would be the thought process. So almost decent execution. Transcendence just needs to come sooner. But you did see how the Tracer being here and the Zen being here sets up this crossfire where anywhere in this entire airspace Pharah wants to be, she can't, because she will get shot from two angles. Or if she LOS's one angle, she'll get shot by the other. Okay. Wall pressure absorbed. It's not doing anything right now. That would be a great time to walk. Once again, worth noting, right? Remember, we need the crossfire on this Pharah. If we don't have it, it's really not realistic to expect our backline to kill this Pharah without help from one of the DPS. It just probably isn't going to happen. And if it does, you know, broken clock is right twice a day. Happens sometimes, not worth counting on though. So once again, our Tracer's leading instead of our Ball. That's a problem. And there's nothing pressuring the Pharah. Alright, like our backline's kind of taking space here, but we can't really do much, right? Backline's here. We're shooting things. Brig's not doing anything. Overall, it's rough. Without the hit scan and without like a DPS to kind of pressure here. But you see with the soldier standing, the only person who can shoot him is a Zen, which he's not worried about. So I've been talking a lot about hit scan, but I'd also like to mention how useless our Brig has felt. This is their DPS line. They really, like, they do have a Mercy, so you can't argue just jump on their backline forehead, but trying to trade backlines is rough when they're on defense, especially on 2CP. But there's really not a lot to pressure a Zen. And I'd also like to know, this is not a good Pharah map. Here on point B, defense is not a good Pharah map. So you could probably even swap Sigma on the offense, even though, like, D.Va is, like Pharah counter, and she is, but you could swap Sigma just because a shield in her face while you have a damage boosted Ashe and a Zen walking at her is scary enough that I'm really not worried about like what is she gonna do after, right? This isn't Rialto where she can fly above the roofs in Narnia and be like, aha, like have fun, and your 6 shield can't do anything. She does have to play close or play here where a damage boosted Ashe will abuse her. So you could swap Sigma Ashe and Mercy because there's not a Tracer to worry about. Hold up, if we look at deaths, yeah, our Zen has the fewest deaths aside from... No, I lied to you. Our Zen just straight up has the fewest deaths. Just straight up. And I don't think that's because our Zen is necessarily exceptional in any way. It's because they're not pressuring our Zen. Because they don't have a Tracer. Okay, we swap hit scan. Like I said, could also maybe swap Sigma. Don't have to. Far is nice. But Sigma Ashe Mercy might be kind of strong. Far zones. Okay, space created. Pharah is... I'd say that's fairly zoned, right? And we're in. We're prepared to go brawl. Our Sombra lives. Where... Oh, I'm looking for our Tracer. I'm not very smart.
30 seconds remaining.
But this soldier remains high ground. Which is a problem mostly because it means we can't, right? It's like, there's not room enough in this town for the both of us. And because this soldier just lives up here, now they have 2 angles. 1, 2. 2 threats to worry about while we're on this high ground. I think this soldiers need to be forced out with, and especially with recent hit scan nerfs, Ashe would be better at doing that, and would be even better at doing that with Sigma. Having said that, their Pharah essentially tries to engage, absorb it again with Transcendence. Soldier punished. Excellent. Do we cap? I don't remember. I think we do. Yeah, we do. Nice. Okay, his scan is cool, but just briefly, fundamentals we saw is Vol needs to lead the Tracer. If we're having our Tracer burn all of her cooldowns before our balls even moved in, that's a problem. And absorbing engages was the other one, especially with Transcendence. They come in, transcend, punish them. And taking space with Rally was pretty good. I feel like we gave up high ground a little too hastily, though, I'll be honest, to go down the stairs. Okay, that was a large skip and not where I pressed. Okay, take a look at defense setup. We are now on the Sigma hero. Okay, immediately, problem. This occupies 1 angle. 1 angle can be blocked by a single DM or shields or ball engage, etc. Right? So having all of our angles stacked is maybe not the best idea, and having like an Ashe up here maybe, or over here. This is within orb range. Tracer is orb. Why could, like, Ashe could have orb up here. But just not having our angles all stacked on 1 would make our opponent's lives much harder. Although it is nice that our Ashe is up here while everyone else is lower. Keep pressure on their ball. He's in. No one else is. They rotate through. Did our Tracer get hacked? I gotta see this back. Because once again, like, our Tracer's dead and I didn't even see, like, anything happen. That is unfortunate. I'd have to imagine that that's a bit of a comms issue. If we go back and take a look. Our Tracer's here, vibing. Enemies walking now. Our Tracer's only aware of it now, right? Which is kind of unfortunate. Yeah, and I think probably another thing that is miscommunicated, which I know mostly because I was there, is what are we doing with this setup? Whoa, I've never even used that tool before. What are we doing here? What's the point of this setup? Are we trying to hold them at the choke? Or are we just trying to spam and back up and play point, right? Which hasn't been communicated whatsoever, if I remember correctly. We didn't talk about this. We just called, oh, backline play up here. Great. Obviously, ball tracer positioning is a little bit more fluid, because they have mobility, but we don't call what we're trying to do here. And it looks like our tracer's set up for like a choke stuff when we aren't really trying to do that. He had fun. So we're kind of chilling at this point, right? If our tracer's alive, we've been building ultimates, spamming. We rotate here now to go brawl point, right? Which, make no mistake, their brawl is not necessarily better than ours. Ashe has dynamite, which is nice. Sigma has a shield and more cooldowns, namely a stun, than the D.Va. And hands doesn't just absorb, or grasp doesn't just absorb damage, it gives him shields back as well, right? So their brawl is not inherently better than ours until our ball gets hacked. Speaking of, this is something we haven't really done, is I kind of want to take an in-depth look at timing of our engage. So our ball's in, and I feel like our backline is still really far back, especially where we know their ball is dead. Right, ball is extremely dead, and we're so hesitant to walk. The problem with walking when playing a ball comp is your backline is afraid of getting jumped on, but there's no ball to jump on them. We need to be walking a lot more aggressively. And now our ball's dead, but I'd almost say we could keep walking aggressively for just a little bit longer, namely get this Sombra out. Nice kill by the Brigitte. Okay. Sombra gets invis. Yeah, but we get the Tracer, right? Imagine if we'd gotten the Sombra instead, almost the same thing. But we're still able to kind of walk. Tracer's here. Overall, pretty well done, right? Absorb the engage from the ball. Our ball engages, backline walks. They're also not on the Pharah, but hit scan is still fine. Okay. There's a bit of a choke. They make the rotation through. We slam. We leave. As long as our ball lives, that's about what we're looking for. Right? With a collapse on point. Rotate back main. I think there's a better angle. Okay. So once again, engagement absorbed. In this case, it was just Tracer CDs while our flankers battled their D.Va. Both teams are going to have another cooldown cycle here. So the question is, what is each team going to do with it? Again, one on the defense. Our backline is in a better position than theirs. The Zen is also extremely split, and I don't know why. I don't know where our Brig is going. So I'm looking at this. This is something I've seen a lot, by the way. Is teams getting really obsessed with a solo Tracer. Also, nice skin. Shout out. What is this Tracer going to do? Probably nothing, right? Especially once we rally. This Tracer's probably not going to do anything. And if she's not going to do anything, why are we worried about her? That's 2 missed shots. It's a missed whip shot. Another missed shot. Finally hit some shots, right? But in the meantime, my point isn't to criticize like the mechanics of our Brig and our Sigma. The point is this Tracer has taken a lot of attention when she probably wasn't going to do anything anyway, especially if we just rally and walk. Look how much armor our Brig has. Like, what are we worried about? You know, we could just be walking. All right, these guys could all have full armor as well, and I think we could have just ran these guys over, especially with like our Zen here and ball look for an engagement, and then maybe Ashe here, right? We could have been pushing. I think we maybe get the Tracer eventually. We don't, and now we have had to use Transcendence because our Zen didn't have any healing at any point. All right, we have rally. We're trying to push. Our Zen doesn't have armor or healing because we're chasing a Tracer. This Tracer essentially carries this offense by doing this, by the way. Because our entire rally, I don't say doesn't get no value, but could have gotten so much more, being the best ultimate in the game. And Transcendence is basically forced because our Zen is thinking, we have rally, we're up, we can push, right? Resource advantage. Their backline is in an extremely terrible position, right? Get this and go here, Ashe, Zen, Ball, right? There's a lot you can do to them in this position. But we decided to chase Tracer instead of walking. It's not Transcendence is forced, they still have EMP. I think we might win this fight anyway, actually. But now we're back to default. We use Rally and Transcendence. And nothing's happened. I should be back on main. And we'll go back a little bit and watch this kind of play out. And you can see now they have the ultimate advantage. They have the cooldown advantage. Their Zen is now in a much better spot. Didn't have Transcendence for EMP. Oh, this was sad. Rest in peace, Ashe. Anyway, they end up winning this fight. We rally. There's a reason why I always refer to Rally, Transcendence, and EMP as Brawl ultimates. Not strong ultimates, not our best ultimates, not win cons, but Brawl ultimates. Is because when we rally, that doesn't win us the fight. You don't press Q and win, you press Q, then press W and win. And instead we press S and backed up chase Tracer. Instead of pressing W and for Ashe pressing D. D? Yeah, D. And getting an angle here on their backline. Right, Brawl ultimates. We rally, we go Brawl. Okay. Point B, let's talk setup. So, this is something I know for a fact doesn't happen in this particular scrim. But playing here is actually a really strong position for a couple reasons. One, your break can see pretty much everywhere. Right? Anywhere that someone tries to get on our backline, our break can see it. This is a fairly straight shot. I guess technically Ball could come here and like grapple and slam here. I'm really not worried about that too much. Right, but we gotta play nice sightline. From here, nice spot to brawl as well. And it's always the concept of if they want to control high ground and so do we, but if we play here, right, they choose when to peek here and they can kind of walk cat whenever. So we just play cat and just like dare them to come across this massive sight line. And then we have rotation options where we can come mega, just here, or we can push this way. We also have control flank, which immediately you'll notice that both their Sombra and Tracer are in. Backline here stops that. And now their flankers are at square one, while our backline is still mad chillin'. Right, D.Va doesn't get to stand here, right? This space she's taking for free doesn't happen. These guys walking here for free doesn't happen because our Ashe has a sight line. There's another thing also. You can play here to start, which allows you to funnel resources to your Ashe. Then your Ashe can drop here, and you can reconnect with her this way. And that kind of diversifies your angles a little bit with Ashe up here. You guys here, just a little bit. But that's more of a hypothetical setup. Let's talk what actually happens. What actually happens is they rally and walk in, right? They have the Brawl ultimates, one of them, right? They press it, they walk in, which opens the door. Well, Pulse Bomb also kind of opens the door. But right, they pop that rally, they walk in, they get kills. I dare say because we don't kite, right? Right here, they rally. I don't know how I keep opening H. Hello, general chat. Right, they rally here. We can't fight this. We can't. Back. Admit that's unfortunate. But like, I think we even could have kited instead of just backing straight this way. Could have kited, like, try to kite around here, or instead of kiting into this corner, just drop, because otherwise that happens. I think our Sigma actually lives, courtesy of that Brig's whip shot that Brig throws. But our Sigma should have died there. The Brig's also really far back instead of swinging on our Sigma. Point being, they pop the ultimates, they walk in, we don't kite, right? Ebb and flow. They press Q, we either press Q and meet them, or we back. We do eventually back, but at the cost of kills. And a tick. You see our Tracer Ball is controlling, right? With the help of maybe some powerful range DPS, or a Zen. We're in a much better shape. Having said that, they don't push their advantage very well. So we'll look at talk about why they started this fight off well. Let's talk about why they didn't win. Because they are at the advantage, and the red team should lose, but we do win. So for starters, this is great. Very well done by red team. Also 2 CP moment, right? Ball dies, doesn't matter. They don't have a Zen, right? Who's close to Transcendence, by the way. They no longer have a Zen. And our Tracer does live. Yes? Okay, Tracer does live. Right. But now I want to take a closer look at our backline. And when I say backline, I'm going to say Zen, because our Sigma should have died, and our Brig does die. So keep an eye on where our Zen is at. Alright. They engage, backline, or a Zen backs up. And is now living. Sigma's also living. Good pressure here, right? Backline is still living. Or another way to think about it is an engagement absorbed, right? They pushed high ground, we lived, we absorbed their engage, they come back in, and our core's back together, right? We have our Zen, we have swapped Widow, which is fine, and we have our break back now, so we can walk. So they got... Another way to think about it, they rally, right? They walk here, they drop, and then they're playing, well... We'll say they're playing this corner, right? They played this corner, but now we've stabilized, right? They've used their resources, and we've lived because we backed. They push, we back. And trading kills is fine here, right? Our ball trades for their Tracer, or trades for their Zen with the help of our Tracer. Our Zen trades for their Brig. That's fine. We gave up a tick. We go again. This once again could set up here, but... Okay. Tracer's over here. Or here. Our Widowmaker has swapped Cassidy. Okay, so the issue with Cassidy... Cassidy is a lot more brawly, obviously, than the Ashe pick, but it does narrow the angles we can play, where they are on Tracer Sombra Ball, right? They're not on Pharah, they're not on Soldier, which means we do have to be afraid of their flankers, which means we don't really want to, like, split up on, like, isolated flanks, or off angles, rather. So I wouldn't want to put Zen Sigma over here, but if we put Zen Brig over here, that still leaves our Cassidy kind of weak, right? Whereas an Ashe could play, like, up here, and Tracer Sombra can't really get up here, you know? And as long as we keep pressure on Catwalk and resources in our Ashe, we're chilling. Okay, we'll ignore that little interaction. Let's talk here. Well done. Okay. So the reason we're all stacked so close, give you an insight into comms, is because we called the push early, which also means our tracer, instead of being here, should probably have just grabbed the mega, or been up here, or like slunk outside while they were trying to regroup around coast. Options, right? But we do call the push to push early with minefields. But once again, right? Let's talk ebb and flow. They got a kill, we need to back. Instead, we respond with an ultimate. Minefields. That puts us even, to be clear. Alright, we're down 1. Pretend Brig hasn't died yet. Right? We're down 1 and have used mines. We're kind of on even footing. Not really, but we're on defense, so we'll call it even, right? Once we kill their Brig, now I would say we're ahead, right? We trade our Sigma for their Brig, worth. But they pop Transcendence. We're not going to kill anything else. It's time to back. Immediately, right? Walking forward into the D.Va, or like whatever else, not worth it. Just back. Oh. I remember this. It's well done by their ball, actually. I want to highlight this. So, we force an engagement up top. Their ball comes point. It's like, okay, come to me. And our ball dies. I think our Tracer had the touch. I don't think we needed to use Transcendence for this. But that is what applying pressure can do, right? Overall, the aggressive play, not a bad call. I think our Tracer probably could have either been more on board or been ready to play defensive. And harass the ball before he got in instead of after. Why do we flex out of spawn? Happens. Again, that's what happens when you apply pressure really well as the offensive team, right? The defense makes mistakes. And now they have EMP. The attacking team does. Honestly, I'd say probably the two biggest mistakes were our backline was a little slow to get our Tracer resources. I said we'd ignore this interaction, but our Tracer went AFK here at half HP, waiting for heals. And there's somebody just decloaks right here and starts shooting her, and she has to recall, which is the right play. The recall was the safer play. But now our Tracer doesn't have recall. And sure, there's someone might leave, but the someone's going to leave and be back with her backline, where our Tracer now just doesn't have recall. Which means less resources, harder to contest point, harder to contest their ball when he comes in. So our backline needs to be faster at getting resources to our Tracer. I'd say it's mostly on our Zen because Orb is not a cooldown and Pack is. So in between fights, when you have Bullets of Portals, your Zen needs to make sure everyone's topped up so we still have full packs for the next fight. And then once we did engage here, the moment they pop Transcendence, we just need to back. And I don't think we needed to rally either. They pop Transcendence. They still have a minefield they need to walk through, which is going to take them a moment to clear. And while they're clearing it, just back and contest point. We probably could have saved both of excuse me. Could have saved both of Portals there if we were a little bit quicker on backing. A little bit quicker on backing would have meant more time to like clear mines and our Brig drops point, right? If our Zen drops point at half HP against a ball, our Zen's dead. If Brig drops points with full HP and a shield and cooldowns, they're chilling. Okay, let's talk about this setup now. This is not good. Zen is isolated. And if Brig and or Sigma played back here, neither of them would do anything for the entire duration of the fight. Which is part of why up here is pretty cool, is because their Sombra is going to have a rough time here, right? Especially if our Zen plays like back here, and our Sigma's more up here, EMPing both of them is going to be somewhat difficult. Which, for obvious reasons, is a very good thing. And even if they do get EMP off, imagine there's a Brig, a Zen, and a Sigma here in this little 2v2. Just shows up for the red team. These guys just die. Go next fight. Our Zen's already halfway on another Transcendence, right? And then after farming these guys, we're at maybe 60%. By the time they actually set up, we're maybe at 70%. If we get an opening pick... that's a big if, we'll have Transcendence before they even get a chance to EMP. And like we said, even if they do get it off, we're in a better spot. Yeah, their Tracer Sombra win this little 2v2, which is rough. But our backline definitely could have helped out with that, just positioning wise. Worthy trade? Maybe. But once again, backline. Needs to back a little bit sooner, right? We should know our ball tracer don't have resources here. We should look and just be like, ah, huh, hey, look. And our Cassidy is looking. Our Sigma's not. Okay, this is a little more micro. But if you are playing Sigma, what does this shield do here? Forget the bomb. Pretend the bomb hasn't happened yet. What does this shield do? What are you shielding? What are we shielding? The EMP? The Tracer? The Diva damage? Right? Like, we haven't even seen their Zen. Let alone, like we don't even know that their Zen is in a position to shoot us. And even if he is, you're not going to get one shot by him. So the shields isn't doing anything. Oh, our Cassidy tucks in here while our Sigma's here. Got it. Anyway, a little quicker on the backing. Don't waste shields. Okay, our Cassidy should not live. Poor High Noon. Ends up getting run over. So, backline's a little bit split. They solo EMP our Zen. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I don't mind this split. Having Sig Cassidy up here with the understanding that as soon as they're pressured in a significant way, not just shot by a Zen, back up, right? And then Brig Zen down here, where if they come point without pressuring our Zen, they'll pop off. And if they do pressure our Zen, now our Brig's in a position to succeed, right? Which is kind of how the whole backline works. So I definitely see Brig Zen having success down here with Sig Cassidy up here. If they, the real problem, I wouldn't do that with Transcendence, by the way, because if they just EMP our guys up top, they're just dead. While we have Transcendence down here. But I could see that being a viable counterplay to them having EMP and us not having Transcendence. Even though they could just EMP anyway, our guys up top. Okay, we'll talk ult economy just for a moment because I think it is relevant. They EMP our backline to get in, right? Remember that? They used EMP to get in the door. Ball Tracer, Sombra all came in off the back of that. They bombed top, whee, right, to get in up top, right? That's the door open. They're in. Then they get to point and they rally their Brawl ultimate, right? And then clean up. We're not going to get kills here on the defense because they have rally.
10 seconds.
And we end up losing. Actually, I think that ends up being a W. We hold until overtime. Yeah, look at the time bank. We win. Arguably. Okay. In conclusion, I'd say probably the biggest couple of things I noticed is one, if they don't have anything to pressure our backline, Mercy, Sigma, Ashe, all very strong picks. You can even keep the Brig and still play Sigma Ashe. I think that's an underrated composition right now, and also a little bit easier to execute. The other thing is Ball needs to lead Tracer, not Tracer lead Ball. Ball can take a little bit of damage, a little bit of poke, right? Tracer can't. Tracer gets one body shot by a Zen or a Cassidy, recall. Ball takes one shot from one of those guys, doesn't care, right? Walk it off. So Ball needs to be leading the Tracer. And then for this map in particular, playing up here as a backline core is pretty cool. Yeah, those are probably the big things. Oh, and then ebb and flow. Ebb and flow is so big. When they pop ultimates up here, right? When they press Q, and we're vibing up here, smiley face, and they start to push, right? Notice how our arrow goes the same way as theirs because they're pressing Q, run away, right? Yeah, that'd probably be the biggest things I notice. All right, guys, thank you for watching. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be sure to answer all of them. Yeah, and I'll be recording another one of these, and it should be uploaded as well soon. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.